Thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak. In studio with me, Franklin Mukwanja, the Executive Director, the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Advocates of the High Court, Keva Ojejo, and Nelson Havi, formerly the 49th President of the Law Society of Kenya, and Dr. Barak Muluka, Leadership and Communications Consultant. Yes, Franklin, your hand was up. Ideally, a lot is going to happen, is it, in reshaping the country's political establishment?
Clearly, and several things are likely to obtain. One of the things that I want to proffer this morning is that the split of ODM is inevitable. And I dare say, to me, having interacted with the party and its leadership, I would almost say that it was premeditated and acutely planned by the former party leader, may he so rest in peace, Raila Odinga. And if you look at the choices of the leaders that went to the government, were carefully, in my view, picked by Raila Odinga to enable and arise a situation in the party where there was going to be succession. The choice of Oparanya, the choice of Joho, the choice of Mbadi, the choice of Wandai. In my view, and my own political instincts, is that the party leader was signaling that there is some deadwood I need to chop off. And they seemingly have come out as the readily power-hungry people who are willing to compromise sufficiently to join any arrangement. And Raila Odinga has been on record severally. It may be difficult sometimes to trust the political leaders who, as Barak says, speak tongue in cheek. But he seemed to struggle with the acceptance that ODM was formally in a working arrangement with UDA. And to me, that seemed that he had two competing groups and interests, one which was ready and keen to get power without principle, and he offloaded that to the executive. And in my view, he could have hoped that the younger, fresh, radical, the Sifunas and the others, would then automatically find sufficient room for wiggle in the party and take charge. Now, that hour of reckoning has come. Who has the significant influence within the membership? Because we know Raila Odinga's modus operandi, that if he didn't like you, he wouldn't waste time. I mean, there is the issue of the former Secretary General, Ababu Namwamba, and how he dealt with him in the National Elections Conference. There is the issue of the former Executive Director, who was just picked in Raila's, circle and kicked out of the party. And therefore, Raila Odinga, respectfully, had a way of disciplining and using his very loyal forces to instill discipline where you completely had, your own disagreements and you couldn't connect. But interestingly, Sifuna has maintained his respect and support quietly from Raila Odinga until his demise. And occasionally he would actually defend him and say, he's speaking the party position, and you may not like it, but he's the spokesperson of the party. Yeah. The hour of reckoning is here. Will the young Turks in ODM that, in my view, were given room by sending off the others to the executive, manage to hold their own in the absence of Raila Odinga? It is up to them to convince the party leadership. Raila Odinga was not one to give and hand over. He was actually one to take from. So they have to find a way of convincing. And I think they have an opportunity. Because the nature of politics that William Ruto does and Raila Odinga's politics is that one has had these loyal fanatics without oiling their palms. The other one is very heavily reliant on subduing opponents by oiling their palms. And the styles that Raila Odinga and William Ruto and how they differ and how the ODM fanatics and loyalists are handled is a matter of time before we begin seeing disgruntlement and voices that we are not happy.
Okay.
And how these younger people that have been disgruntled and have had the audacity to say that we are not happy with the idea. In fact, the Secretary General is on record saying, I would read any other resolution other than the resolution of declaring support for President Ruto. Yeah. It is up to them now. There is no young people joke that after age 30, you do not come from a poor background. Yeah. You are the background. Yes, so that hour has come. Will they take over, or will they be annihilated by William Ruto, the ex who seems to be saying, my former girlfriend looks quite beautiful nowadays?
And the attempts of crawling back to enjoy the love again. Council Harvey, gifting the party for some is an option within the ODM party, and there are some who want a continuity in the shoes of the former Prime Minister, the Social Democrat he was. And does this give us an idea then that this was perhaps the last attempt for socialism? Komchesi also writes in his op-ed today that Paul Ogula's book, The Struggle for Socialism in Kenya, reminds us that the KPU was the last serious attempt to define Kenya's soul around the needs of its people, which Raila Odinga also believed in. But the party, after his death, seems not to be structured around that very same cause, given what they have said during his funeral in Bondo.
Well, rightfully so, because of the temporary nature of political parties as they have become to be. But what we must not forget that ODM has been in existence permanently from 2005. Other than KANU, which has, for all practical purposes, disintegrated, ODM is still the most formidable party. It has the aspirations of socialism. And it is my projection that the remainder of Edwin Sifuna as a youthful leader in ODM, despite persistent efforts by people to kick him out, even during the life of Raila Amolo Odinga, is an indicator that Raila Amolo Odinga saw himself in Edwin Sifuna. And Edwin Sifuna is my very good friend. I have some advice for him. Accession to high office does not require hesitation. It doesn't require hesitation. When the king is killed, even in combat or in illness, the heir apparent must prepare for coronation quickly. In fact, in Luhya tradition, it used to be done before the chief is buried. So yes, mourn Raila Amolo Odinga, but you must not hesitate in taking over the leadership of ODM. In fact, by right now, they ought to have conglomerated at Chungwa House and taken over the leadership of this party. Otherwise, the leadership of the party will continue disintegrating. It will continue the division. It will continue the fragmentation. It will end up being a party domiciled in Siaya alone. It will end up being a party domiciled in Kisumu, Homa Bay, and Migori. And I do not think that is what Raila Amolo Odinga decided. And it's perhaps for that reason, borrowing from him, he jettisoned this dead wood with the expectation that those who look like him when he was youthful will take over the party at their proper time and proceed. Sifuna, please stop the mourning. You need to take over power right now.
Yes, Kefa.
Interesting. Now, Ayub, I don't think Sifuna will manage to take over power at ODM. Number one, it's true we are going to have slight split in the ODM. But here is the catch. It is not going to be of magnitude, or the effect is not going to be felt in the next general election. This is the reason. We are going to have a slight split, but the majority are going to remain in the coalition with UDA. Now, the few people who are going to move out are going to be in a dilemma, whether to join the Gachagua team, which they do not truly trust, or to go it alone, which still is inconsequential on their own. So their effect, therefore, is not going to be felt in this election. Maybe after the next general election, when now they start forming base and looking for new alliances and building up the new party, there may be something significant. But for now, I don't think so. And I don't think Edwin Sifuna henceforth is going to have a commanding voice or a persuading voice in ODM. I don't think he commands the majority position in the party. And now, in the absence of Raila, it is going to be a direct cold war on him. They may not succeed, as Daktari said, in expelling him, but he'll find it so uncomfortable that he cannot stay there himself. So he'll opt to move out. But the question is, where is he going? Which camp is he joining? Because I can also see, I can tell clearly that we cannot even expect Kalonzo also to constantly remain in the opposition as it is right now. With Ruto now owing the former president Uhuru Kenyatta, we know the influence that Uhuru Kenyatta has in Kalonzo's position. And most likely we are going to see also the opposition now splitting again and real alliances forming back to UDA and ODM party. The challenge for ODM will only be one. They may choose to be a useless party, or they may choose to be a strong party to negotiate. And this is the problem I had with when I started hearing, those clamations from some ODM members saying, we've already declared our support to President Ruto, we've already decided he's going to be our president. That is not how you negotiate in a political table. They ought to put their house intact first, command respect, command authority, bring their members together, ensure they have that unity, then they can have the power to negotiate in a position. Because I foresee a coalition not just for the parties, but I see where we are going to have the presidency coming from both the UDA and ODM. And this is what likely Ruto is going to do. Because looking at the political landscape, how it has happened, we do not expect William Ruto to have a running mate from the mountain in 2027. That will be a tall order. That is the truth. As things are going and formations are happening. But what is he going to ride again now? The idea of the youth and the hustler did not work. This time round, he may now go with the idea of women. Okay. And we see where we're now going to have the presidency as the president coming from UDA being the President Ruto, and we're going to have a running mate from ODM and a female candidate. And who is likely to be that position? None other than Gladys Wanga. So we're already seeing a formation of two different people who are in command of their own parties at this position. And that is why it is now clear for ODM that they have to put their house in order to have that bargaining power before they have the next move to the next general election.
So how will then the party look like without the strong voice and the spokesmanship or the spokespersonship of Edwin Sifuna, who has been consistent throughout, even in critiquing the broad-based arrangement when Raila was alive?
You see, let me tell you, I think the ODM has probably one of the party with the best brains. If you look, everybody is equal to the task, you see. Edwin Sifuna has been advancing what he believes in. Raila was a Democrat in nature and will not want to definitely punish somebody for speaking their mind while advancing the party interest. But the people who have remained in the party now are people who are just personal interest oriented. They will not listen to Edwin Sifuna. And I don't think Edwin Sifuna voices is going to have any more meaning in the party going forward. But when he falls off from the party, I do not see him surviving on his own. He will need to probably find somewhere to lean on. But I also do not see him feeling safe with the Gachagua camp. So where is he going to survive in? I'm seeing Edwin Sifuna surviving, just remaining in the ODM, becoming so, maybe less active in the ODM, just surviving to ensure probably he survive the next election. And after the next election, I do not see Edwin Sifuna surviving in ODM. Okay. Probably there will be a new camp forming their own party.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, I'm actually intrigued by the council's definition of the political space in absolute binary positions, that it's either this or that. and also the attempt to equate party honchos to the party. There's the high presidium of the political party, and then there's the mass following within the political party formation. If you go to Malava today, ODM is conspicuously absent. If you go to Huisero, where I come from, ODM was peddling the ticket around, touting it around. It went begging, looking for anybody who could run on that ticket in Kisa East, where there is a by-election. And so ODM is missing in what have been its strongholds. It's a party that got onto the limp way before its kingpin, Raila Odinga, his soul rest in eternal peace, passed on. It was already in a troubled space. When they went to Kakamega, the last function that the departed Raila Odinga attended in Western, the objective was to smoke Edwin Sifuna out of the party, out of leadership. And Francis Atwoli captured the spirit of the moment, that we came here thinking that you are going to dress down this young man. And we can see that he has got a following. We've got to draw a very clear distinction between the wishful thinking of party honchos, people who occupy those elevated spaces within the party, and the population out there. We are not in an environment in which people are just going to be told that you are going to vote for so-and-so, that you are going to support Ruto. That has been the thorn in the flesh of the voter who is now more self-assertive, more conscious of his or her rights, and who will reject certain things. So the thinking that because certain powerful fellows within the high presidium of the party have taken a certain position, therefore this is the way it's going to work, it's not very likely to be that. And as I said at the outset, this notion of you are either with Rigathi Gachagua or you are with William Ruto. No, the dynamism within the political space prepare the country for other options. And we must remain conscious and open to the possibility that there are going to be other options, other formations. And Ayub, when Jesus Christ is on the cross, you don't ask him whether he's going to join the criminal on his left or the criminal on his right. One of the two is going to have to say, remember me when you come to paradise. And he has to say, verily I say unto you, you will be with me in paradise. So we have to look at the people who are being persecuted now within those symbolic prisms.
Okay, and before I come to you, Council Harvey, Franklin, this tells us, since multipartyism in the aftermath of repealing Section A, the struggle in loosening the grip of personalities around our politics is it, rather than the ideologies and policies that ought to be pushing forward our political parties, and therefore explains this problem that we are encountering now in the absence of the former Prime Minister.
We can look at that from two lenses. One is that are we overly being too hard on ourselves? That we're expecting the maturity of a multi-party democratic culture over 100 years from, 30 or, or so years. A part of me believes so. Are we facing in the right direction? Yes. The speed may not be the desired one. And we need to begin looking at the reasons why we have been slower at maturing. And this is aptly captured in George Orwell's quote, that voters that vote in criminals, corrupt leaders, and all the bad manners that are associated with many of the elected leaders that we have are no victims, but accomplices. Our political fabric and our political party culture, our democratic culture, is problematic. And unless we invest deeper into civic engagement, political education, we are unlikely to shift this attitude, where we do not want to look and evaluate our leaders from their core functions of oversight, legislation, representation, but how good they are at social welfare dispensation. As if, the qualification of a good Kenyan leader, and like most of Afghan, should be wealthy and generous, regardless of the source of wealth. And those issues are key. During the break time, Elder Barak mentioned that these fundamentals of money, of ethnicity, are challenges that we must deal with. And that can only be dealt, in my view, from a clear political education program. Having said that, let me quickly, because I was also astounded by Ogijo's reflections, and I think he's operating very ideally. And I'll give him quite some scenario. The demise of Raila Odinga is going to expose the soft underbelly of those who have been surviving on indoctrinating the electorate with the crying and rallying call of we want to help Raila up here. And we cannot, and I speak with this with a lot of respect for women leadership, and I would really be happy that a woman finally ascends to the position of deputy president as such. But I see Gladys Wanga as one of those with a soft underbelly that is exposed in the absence of Raila Odinga. Gladys Wanga came in through a negotiated agreement, a negotiated democracy. She didn't face the electorate. The party primaries. Gladys Wanga needs to face the party loyalists, the grassroots delegates at an ODM National Delegates Conference, be elected the chairperson, not handpicked, in the party organs where it is most of, the tomatoes that are grown in what is it called? Or a zero-grassed cow, very conditioned boardrooms and such things. So we've not seen the Gladys Wanga that can actually do the proper grassroots delegates. So she's pseudo. Her support is pseudo. Her political networks are pseudo. She has not been exposed to the acute conditions of building her own following. And that is where I should begin. That is point one. Point two is that Ogijo is speaking as if other actors are just going to sit back. What tells you that even Oburu is not interested in being William Ruto's running mate? You have these two other leaders, the minister for the CS for National Treasury, Badi, and they had very good reviews from the president during Raila Odinga's burial. And you also have the entitlement of Opio and I. I think when now the opportunities are presented, you're not going to see that they're just going to sit back, that merely because you are a woman and the optics are there. No, it's not going to happen. As coming from an ugali-eating nation, my grandmother, my grandmother told me one day, because, you're sharing this thing, and this mountain is put there. And the focus, as my brothers Harvey and Barak will tell you, should not be the vegetables on your plate. That is yours. The focus should be on the mountain of ugali.
Yes. And you terrorize it.
Terrorize that first. Then you can, treat the vegetables as a dessert later on.
Yes.
And that was very serious education for me. Because all the time she would have to summon me on the side, for some, because you didn't go for the, and until I learned that. So Gladys Wanga should not just look at the vegetables she has on her table in Homa Bay, which was actually served to her. And she didn't go for, she has not yet, started digging in.
Yes, Councillor Havi.
I tend to listen to what many do not hear. I've listened to Ojijo. Unfortunately, Ojijo speaks for the majority of the Luos of his age, the enlightened Luo. And what do they say? They are uncomfortable with Edwin Sifuna at the helm of ODM. And because I have close proximity to the people of his age, I think that is the resonating message across the board. And it's not limited to this age group. In fact, if you elevate that argument slightly up and interrogate the views within ODM, you'll realize it is the youthful elected leaders in ODM from Luo Nyanza who have expressed discomfort with Edwin Sifuna. I mean, Gladys Wanga has said it so clearly. Millie Odhiambo has said it so clearly. The only hesitation appears to be from the most mature of the lot, James Orengo and Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, because they've been there. They know it. Sifuna finds himself in a situation that Michael Kijana Wamalwa found himself many years before.
In the aftermath of Jaramogi's departure.
The only difference is Sifuna does not have a Raila Odinga as a contest against him from Luo Nyanza, as it was in 1994 upon the death of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. And we cannot lose sight of one fact. Raila Amolo Odinga wanted ODM to be a national party. There are those parasites within his conclave who are determined to make this an ethnic party. We don't have any grievances with him. We can only advise those warriors who are proactive. Edwin Sifuna, you find yourself in the same position that Nikita Khrushchev found himself in after the death of Joseph Stalin. You're a good student of history, you're a good student of law, you're a good student of politics. This is the moment. And my assurance to Edwin Sifuna is that there's a great appeal outside Luo Nyanza. And that appeal is what Raila Amolo Odinga stood for. And this must be done because we saw the deliberate effort by William Samoei Ruto to emasculate Jubilee a few months after the election. Were it not for the determination by President Uhuru Kenyatta to wrestle the party back to him, Jubilee would have been taken. We've seen the deliberate attempt to take ODM. KANU has been taken. You know, any person at the helm of the executive will want absolute power. Make no mistake about it. Even me, even Barack here. Make him president, he'll want executive absolute power. That's why we have checks and balances. Because a question may be asked, why do we have the political parties act in the first place? Why are we allocating public funds to political parties if through caprice and determination, all political parties are being phased out with the deliberate intention of having one person, one party, despite the fact that we claim to have a multi-party democracy. That is the perspective from which, despite the want of hearing amongst many, I've listened and have no grudge from what I've listened. What I can only do is to project and give a perspective upon which this scenario can be bettered.
Okay, and let's explore this, gentlemen, starting with you, Kefa, that for the former Prime Minister, the late Raila Amolo Odinga, he was more dependent on the support from the people. Actually, he was a creation of the people after creating himself. Who today bears those political traits and the DNA, in your view, Kefa, as we speak about transition and the challenges first? Second, Council pointed out that political parties ought to be maintained for the advancement of our democracy, and Senior Counsel James Orengo also said that when he spoke during the funeral of the former Prime Minister, said, let's stop killing political parties. I'm sure that message had a specific target. It was the president.
Exactly.
In the aftermath of what Harvey had pointed out.
Exactly.
So how do we extrapolate these 2 points?
Number one, Ayub, I'm a very practical guy when I'm discussing politics of this country. I do not like us to go around and imagine this scenario. We can tell. We have been in this country. We have studied the political formation and the changes that happens in political space. We can tell what is going to happen. I'm a very practical guy, and I say it as it's going to happen. And we will come here after 2027 election, and you will see exactly what I've told you. You see? So
everything is recorded, so we will...
Yes, we will come here after 2027, and you will see exactly what I've told you.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Ayub, there cannot be another Raila Odinga. That was an exceptional man with his own unique creatures, an enigma on his own. There cannot be another Raila Odinga, and I cannot equate anybody to be as another Raila Odinga. But remember, also nature bores a vacuum. We have seen this, even if you study the history of politics, right, from the independence, how things happen when even somebody, a community that used to command some political space, felt, for instance, when Tom Mboya had left the space, we felt that there was a little bit of jiggers in between. Jaramogi came in, took over. When Wamalwa Kijana was now struggling, Raila came in. You see, so there's always somebody that takes advantage and starts rising at that position. Now, let me just answer my brother here on what he said. He said Gladys Wanga has never done anything. She was just handpicked and put in place. It's very unfortunate. Perhaps I will say with authority right now that the most influential, hardworking person in ODM I know right now is none other than Gladys Wanga. I can tell you with authority. I also happen to come from Homa Bay County. This is a woman who came from nowhere, with no political history, nothing. Vied and became the woman for 2 terms. When she went for the gubernatorial seat, of course it was negotiated because there were so many people with interest. And they all agreed who is best among us. And she turned out to be the best among the equals that they have.
I interviewed Evans Kidero in the aftermath of the settlement by the party leadership, and
yes,
he was disgruntled, as the others were, because of the intervention of the party, and he said he never felt fairly treated.
No, she beat Kidero hands down. That is the truth.
But there was no nomination to that effect, is it?
But Kidero went on an independent, vied on an independent ticket.
Given the ODM dominance, when I spoke to him, I remember very well, he was very specific about why the party did not allow fair nomination process for the person who has the support of the people to be accorded the party ticket.
The party constitution allows so many ways in which people can, be given position, through consensus, through nominations, and where they see it fit to have consensus, that's what they do. It's not only in Homa Bay, it's done in so many other constituencies, you see. So that is...
Even that the ODM party espouses and embodies the name democracy, and would it have been fair if the nominations were conducted, in your view?
But do you know, Ayub, he even said here that Gladys was handpicked and made the chair of ODM. How was Edwin Sifuna made the Secretary General of ODM?
He probably
For instance.
But,
Doctor, let me just finish. So that, because I know probably this is a bit uncomfortable to the people who...
No.
Okay, let's hear from then you proceed. Yes, Dr. Ari, your hand was up.
We are not uncomfortable. Yeah. We are made of sterner stuff than Kefa wants to imagine. But you see, one is allowed, and we must allow Kefa to wish and to express his wishful thoughts. If you go to Homa Bay, I speak not as a resident of Homa Bay, and therefore completely unemotional, unlike my younger brother, Kefa here.
I'm not emotional, though. I'm just practical.
The person whom the people of Homa Bay wanted was Magwanga.
Oyugi Magwanga.
Oyugi Magwanga, who ended up being forced to become a running mate. Evans Kidero wanted to take it to the primary, Oyugi wanted to take it to the primary. Gladys Wanga did not want to take it to the primary. And I think what Franklin Mkwanja is saying is in fact being authenticated by Kefa when he says that Gladys came from nowhere. Now these were the parasitic politicians whom Raila Odinga handpicked. And I'm surprised that, and with a lot of respect and reverence to the late Raila Odinga, that Kefa wants to believe that there was democracy within ODM. There wasn't. It was a one-man rule, that if he said this, and Gladys Wanga would tell you that if Baba says left, we go left. If he says right, we go right. If you do not understand, refer to number one. So she was handpicked and put in that place. The taste of that pudding is now here, that she has got to fight for that space, to climb through that mountain of ugali on her own fuel and get there. And as he also correctly says, Franklin, that there are other interests within that same zone. Okay. And there will be a night of long knives within that ODM space. And if they are not careful to finally agree with the Nelson Harvey, you're going to end up with a provincial political party in which even the populations on the ground lose faith.
Okay.
You know, what disturbs me is that I think we have fixed our minds to clearly bring out Edwin Sifuna or specific people as the hope of ODM, as the people who are going to be the big change or champion. That is not true. We cannot be here saying that there was no democracy in ODM. If Raila says left is left, because it's about Gladys Wanga. And here, Raila says we are in broad-based government. We have a 10-point agenda. We are working something with this. And Sifuna comes and says, I'm not part of that. I do not want to be associated with that. And he's still in ODM. And Raila does not find that to be some... So what type of democracy do we want to talk about if that is not democracy? If that is not democracy, if seeing Edwin Sifuna disagreeing with Raila's position in the party and still remain the Secretary General, it's not democracy. Let us not forget, the most powerful Secretary General ODM has ever had in its history was none other than Ababu Namwamba, the man who swore himself with the name of Raila Amolo Odinga in Parliament. And Ababu felt that now he has the numbers. People listen to him. You know, he's a man of the people. And he thought he could do it on his own. When he left the party, what happened to Ababu Namwamba? You see, people like Edwin Sifuna are relevant only when they're fighting within the party. They remain so relevant and they remain the darling of the people when they're fighting within the party. But when they walk outside the party that people associate themselves with, Nelson Harvey here said that ODM probably is one of the strongest political parties going by the duration it has been in existence. You see, when they walk out of that political party outside on their own, how much can they pull? What type of crowd can they pull? You see, and this is the position we are saying. I am saying a very clear, practical things in the political arena. ODM is going to put the house in order. It is not by coincidence that Gladys Wanga was made a chair of the ODM. I mean, anybody could have been made a chair of ODM. Anybody. It is not by coincidence she was made the chair of ODM. And once they put the house in order, and they decide that this is the way they want to go, And I told there might be slight, disagreements with him, but they're going to be inconsequential in the next general election. And ODM is going to decide who is going to carry their flag in coalition with other government. And that is why I'm telling you, I do not see anybody other than Gladys Wanga leading that formation.
I get your point, but they're also somewhere inviting the president to be the flag bearer.
He can't come back to ODM. He can't come back to ODM.
But there are some who want.
The president cannot come back to ODM.
Okay, you are
saying he will not. His pride to leave his political party to go back to ODM will not be proper. But he's going to form an alliance with ODM. That is.
But there are some who want him to be part of the ODM party.
Yes, but I know he cannot go back.
So that therefore it kicks off your political attitude. Yes, Councillor.
I need to speak with profound circumspection in reference to Ojijo because these are my in-laws. They retain the power to recall my wives. So I have to be extremely careful. But that notwithstanding, I owe a greater duty to the nation and the people of Luo Nyanza. As I've said, we are not dismissing what Ojijo is saying. He speaks for a majority of the population of his age and a population slightly above his age. But the question that we must grapple with right now is where do we want to take the democratic space in Kenya post the death of Raila Amolo Odinga? That discourse can only be fruitful if it is undertaken objectively. We are in a multi-party democracy. The cannibalization of political parties is an enterprise that must not be countenanced. And if you in Luo Nyanza need any direction as to what is right, you must verily listen to two people and two people alone. James Orengo and Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. These two gentlemen have the benefit of age. They fought for what we have in their youth. They sacrificed a lot. We cannot allow short-term benefits of self-actualization without hard work to blur the wider goal that Raila Amolo Odinga had for the people of Kenya, not Luo Nyanza. You understand? So I believe there is part of this population that is affiliated to the views of Ojijo, but is still amenable to a broader perspective, one that will ensure we have a functional executive and independent and vocal parliament that is able to push the agenda of the people of Kenya. Otherwise, we will fall. And we cannot fall just because the king has fallen. He has left us with a roadmap.
Franklin.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to go on record that I am here to profile this leader against the other. My point clearly, Ojijo, was the absence of Raila Odinga provides an equal opportunity to Edwin Sifuna, to Gladys Wanga, to Simba Arati, Babu Wino, and the rest within the ODM fraternity to prove their mettle. They have been in a conditioned room that was well architectured by one Raila Odinga, and it is now time that they are properly exposed to the direct race of politics. So that gives them an opportunity to emerge. And that must be quite clear. As to whether some of them will survive and the others not, it is quite clear. The political landscape is not for favors. Gladys Wanga has to go for it, just the way Sifuna would go for it. Some will be subdued. The others will find their own pathways. If you look at the two, as it were, Edwin Sifuna arrived at the party secretariat and declared, I think sometime in 15, 16.
Before the elections in 2017.
Yes, that the office of the Secretary General is vacant, and I am here, to take charge. We know Raila Odinga's modus operandi, that when you differed, he found a way of having his co-loyalists deal with you democratically, right? and we have not seen some of those things subjected. The survival of ODM, and if there is something that I would advise them as the Executive Director of Center for Multiparty Democracy, as our member political party, is that let the Central Committee today announce when we're going to have a National Delegates Conference, because the party is done with the grassroots elections. And I am aware and privy to that. If there is a gift that Baba Raila Odinga left with them, is reorganizing the party grassroots. Let them convene the National Delegates Conference. Let Edwin Sifuna go for the post of Secretary General, retain it, and we will have proven his worth. Let Gladys Wanga go for the party chair or the party leader and get it, so that then we can begin to say we're separating wheat from the chaff. Otherwise, all this are mere opinions, and as it were, opinions are like armpits. Some armpits stink, others do not. So allow us to profile our opinion, whether stinking or not.
The Euroforce.
Daktari, coming to you, then this also exposes the extent to which political parties also struggle for survival, given their short political shelf life, what's happening within the Jubilee Party. And also, Kanu, as Council Harvey has pointed out, plus the contest in this regard that everything revolves around the personality. Is this a grave consequence we are looking into heading into a consequential election in 2020?
That's the point precisely, that we have not yet evolved and grown the political party culture. Because the political party cannot be a group of people up there, honchos in the party presidium, who say left and everybody goes left, who say right and everybody goes right. Because the political party is essentially a mass movement. And the mass is out there. It's not been consulted. What we have are shopping baskets, election shopping baskets, that at the end of the season we go out there with our shopping basket and we are able to pick up whatever we are able to. And after that, it goes into dormance. And it's built around an individual. People ask you, whose party is this? When we formed the Democratic National Alliance, we started hearing people saying, oh, this is Mudavadi's, Musalia Mudavadi's party, which it is not. You hear, this is Uhuru Kenyatta's party, this is William Ruto's party. And when William Ruto migrates from a certain location to another one, that location that he migrates to becomes a party with a new name. And there's a following that then doesn't seem to even bother to interrogate what this particular outfit stands for. So Raila Odinga was the party, he was the ideology, he was the rallying call, he was the entire entities within the bigger edifice. And the moment of truth is eventually here, as Franklin of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy says, this is the time to go back to the delegates across the country. And you are likely to survive that way.
And where does this political wave, Nelson, have a place, Maraga and company?
Well, ideally, you're asking where it places myself and my presidential candidate. We have, in the recent past, been traversing the entire country. The Chief Justice, David Kanani Maraga, has been campaigning for our candidates in the by-elections. And over and above that, he has come out to speak on key important issues of national importance. He's spoken about the Cyber Crimes Amendment Act. He's spoken about the misuse of public funds. No other potential candidate for president has been so formidable and impactful in the recent past on issues that are germane to the people of Kenya. He has also been out there rallying support and making clarion calls to the 6.2 eligible new voters to come out and register. No other potential candidate for president has been doing this. And we are comfortable with that situation because we realize, and this is the truth, that the contest for the known candidates, the ones who have been in this arena for a considerable period of time, is to fight over the available voter basket. They do not want that voter basket increased. And herein is the intro for the 6.2. If you want any change at the helm of leadership of this country and all other levels, then it's incumbent upon you to heed the call by David Kinani Maraga. You need change in government. You need a reset. You need people in office who abhor corruption, individuals who are capable to account for what they have, individuals who have integrity, individuals who will not hide behind legislation and come and tell you, look, this amendment is intended to preserve morals, these amendments are intended to preserve families, yet in actual fact, they want to curtail and suppress the freedom of expression. I believe in due course, David Kinani Maraga will also come out and speak about Job Jagi and Nicholas Oyo, who have been kidnapped and are being detained in Uganda. You know, we cannot have a president, we cannot have a candidate for president who doesn't speak to what is important to the people of Kenya. And I think with that background, Ayub, I sit from a point of assurance that there are many of us in Kenya who still see the propriety of an accountable government. And I'm proudly associated with David Kinani Maraga as one of those few who we can bank upon.
Okay, let's sample the feedback, and I'll give the final word to Council Kefa and to you, Franklin. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. The first is from Engineer Lazaro, who says, Mr. Muluka, we must touch the coin from both sides. The absence of Raila in the political arena will severely affect both ruling regime and the opposition. People like Sifuna already jostling for position and power. These are symptoms of the heat. Jay Musoma says Raila's death left many leaders who had a parasitic relationship with the ODM gullible, and Ruto is now setting them up for forced political marriage through a predetermined Baba succession. Must the party leader be his family member or from Nyanza? This is a question he poses. Franklin Lorinda says, most political parties today barely last beyond one election cycle, built on hype, broken by ego. Raila Amolo Odinga, may his soul rest in eternal peace, built a party that has stood firm for 20 years. ODM has survived storms, splits and betrayals, prove that ideology and consistency outlive personality cults. MC_Roma says most of the political parties are tribal-based. In fact, it's always associated with the region where the party leader hails from. Some of the briefcase parties meant to cut political deals. In Kenya, we lack parties with strong ideologies. The final one from Jeru says, it's clear that the end of once a powerful giant, ODM is nigh. ODM was Raila and Raila was ODM. He has rested, may his soul rest in eternal peace, and many careers have gone with him. History will remember them, but never to stand on their own again. Yes, Council Kefa, your final words.
Thank you, Ayub. I would like to say this, that ODM, as it stands today, still has what it takes. It still has what it takes to either form a coalition that is going to form the government, or probably to have a very powerful candidate in the next general election. The only problem that ODM is likely to face is when they decide to relax their muscle and allows the president to dictate the terms. They ought to put their house in order and come so compact that they call the shots, or that they then be in a position to negotiate on equal powers. And this is one of the things I foresee them discussing in today's meeting. I see them having a decision that now they need to move as one voice. They need to have a power in which now they can have a balance in the bargaining position of the next general election. So they still have what it takes. And I foresee, as I said, Ayub will be back here after the general election. You will see my...
God willing.
It's going to happen. God.
I appreciate it. Yes, Frank.
Yes.
Yeah, ideally, for ODM to strengthen, they should focus on having a strong take at 2027. Because my orientation and belief is that you're in a better position negotiating post-election, because you are going to the slaughterhouse with your own knife. And you're not going to rely, because as it looks like, they will end up with tribes and Matumbo cleaning them and all that. It's quite difficult. But let me give my parting shot this way. One is that a strong democracy requires strong political parties. And it therefore follows that strong politics cannot be developed from broken political parties. So at all costs, we cannot, advocate for broken political parties. But the challenge that we have, Ayub, is that strong political parties are based on strong institutions and not strong men. And ODM is becoming one that good example of a party that was based on a strong man. But the challenge is not to the former or future or current strongmen. The challenge is to the Kenyans, that if we strongly believe that political parties are vehicles in a democracy, then we have to challenge ourselves. Are we mechanics for these vehicles, or are we passengers? Big mechanics means we must build these platforms to have ideas as platforms of ideas, as platforms of inclusion, as platforms of accountability. And that is what I would be telling Kenyans this morning. Become mechanics of political parties and not passengers.
Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen, your time, and many thanks for your presence here. Nelson Havi, many thanks. Dr. Barack Muluka, asante. Appreciate it. Council, thank you so much for your time. And Franklin, many thanks for your presence as well. Up next is Sporty Monday of what transpired in the local Premier League. Gor Mahia's 3-0 triumph, and of course the dedication they made to their patron, the late Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, and also the Glory Gunners, who yesterday had gunned down Crystal Palace at the Emirates in North London. All that is up next on Sporty Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast. Till then, good morning.